My guest today is Stephen Popovich, an innovator in the data communications field with more than 30 years experience in executive management, enterprise sales, and marketing. Steve founded Clairvoyant Networks, which produces the TheoraCare line of smart devices designed to help our loved ones live safer, longer, and stronger. And one of the reasons I'm excited to talk to Steve again, first of all, he's a leader in this industry, so I'm always intrigued to know what's on his mind. But secondly, Theora Smart Fall Detection is the first AI neural network platform for highly accurate, always on, always learning fall detection. And you put AI and fall detection together, and you got my attention. Steve, it's lovely to talk to you again. This is about as cutting edge as it gets with you having the first ever AI fall detection platform. Can you tell me more about how you see AI helping our loved ones live independently, safer, and stronger?
What we've done is it's kind of an interesting time in technology because we've got inexpensive and high speed cellular communications that you can literally put on your wrist as a smartwatch with a lot of processing horsepower. They're relatively inexpensive as far as what you're getting as a tool, and then we have the cloud computing has allowed us to be able to scale massively on processing. So with our approach on AI, what we're doing is we're kind of looking for anomalies from the person that's wearing our device. It's basically a smartwatch, and then connecting sub-second connections back to through the cellular interface to the cloud, and then using a tremendous amount of horsepower in the back end to be able to do cool things like detect a fall, for example, or detect that, okay, that anomaly maybe was a significant impact to maybe walking down a hallway to a door jam, but it wasn't a fall. So, being able to minimize false alarms, for caregivers or call centers, as well as being able to make sure that we catch as many falls as possible as far as accuracies go. So there's kind of that two sides of that challenge, and with AI, it allows us to really get there and get smarter as time goes on. With the neural network platform, because it's basically a neural network's a fancy word for being able to a teachable system. So with our platform, what we do is we can retrain the system selectively because you want to make sure you don't introduce bad habits or bad data, as far as those algorithms go, and keep those algorithms so that you let's say, for example, you fix something and you break two other things, because that's when you manually try to work those kinds of algorithms as they get more complex, especially with fall detection, is you will have one step forward and two steps backward in a lot of cases. With the neural network machine we built, it allows us to kind of move forward, even if it's a very small amount of each time we retrain the systems.
And so now the system has, stop me if I'm wrong, but has developed a profile of your loved one and how they move around the house and what's normal and what might be a soft fall, what might be a hard fall, which I want to talk about as well, to hopefully keep them more independent and have less people having to hire to keep an eye on them.
Right. Well, that's where the caregiver benefit comes. Because when I got involved with this, we founded the company now over, like I said, 6 years ago now. We really became focused on the caregiver side. So my father-in-law fortunately had Alzheimer's, which is a terrible thing. He passed away a couple of years ago. But managing that kind of situation for my wife and I as caregivers, in the early days, not so difficult. But my father-in-law also had PTSD, and he had bad knee, so that his stability was challenged. You bring all these things together, and it kind of changed, kind of how much attention we had to use to kind of care for him. And having these tools that we have today, for example, 6 years ago would have been fantastic, because it's a matter of when he would, maybe lose a little more independence, but continue to be safe, and be able to age in place as long as possible, as and make it a win-win-win situation. The way I look at it, a win for him, because we wouldn't be, people wouldn't be hovering over him, my wife and I, or other paid caregivers. And the other side of it is keeping him so that he can minimize any kind of ER visits or other kind of healthcare interventions. And of course, the expense of most of it was just, in his case, was just the inconvenience, the challenge of having cognitive memory issue. Why am I here in the ER room and all that kind of stuff, over and over again. For example, if there was a situation that came up that needed that. And then, of course, for the caregivers too, because, being a caregiver, as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the unsung heroes, in this, in the world today. And it's not just here in the US, it's everywhere.
Is this based, the Fiora smart fall detection, is it based in a watch? Is it based in a phone? How do I keep it on my loved one?
Okay, well, the watch is completely operates on its own. There's no smartphone required, to be paired up with or anything like that. So everything is done either in the watch. In the beginning, for these anomalies, they're detected in the watch, and then what we do is we make that connection to the cloud, to the cellular connection. In the geriatric space, they have what they call hard falls and soft falls. It's very challenging to be able to profile all that stuff. So we spent all the better part of a year doing mechanized testing, with medical test dummies, as well as with real people, with protective gear, because a lot of cases we don't, there's just a tremendous number of these kinds of tests that we had to go through to be able to optimize our product, and then bake that in through the neural network as a training process. So it's for a while we were retraining, these systems, which are, several processes that run in the cloud concurrently, several times a month.
As a caregiver, how does it benefit for me to have this watch on my loved one? What do I gain?
Well, part of it's the false alarms get minimized. So in a lot of products, the false alarms are pretty bad. So as far as the Chicken Little type thing, sky's falling kind of thing, keep hearing it. Well, because this is a long journey for most people, and having that kind of scenario where you've got too many false alarms, that takes a lot of steam out of, kind of, do I believe what the information is coming from a device like ours. The second thing is, because it's a cellular device, basically a cell phone crammed into a smartwatch, is that we can use a feature called Quick Connect that we developed years ago, that allows the caregiver to contact the watch, and the person that's wearing the watch doesn't have to press any buttons on it. So we can open up that two-way voice communication, say, "Hey, Mom, are you okay? Looks like you've fallen," that kind of stuff. So those kinds of things, I'm talking about things that would transpire literally in a minute or two. Those kinds of things allow the caregiver to reduce stress. And also, if, let's say, for example, they're doing, as a caregiver, you've got your own life you're dealing with. And in some cases, it's what they call the sandwich generation, where they might be, kids that's still in school and stuff, they're taken care of as well as the parent. Is that I could optimize, kind of how I use my time, but I also could, when I collect this data, I can see historically kind of what's going on, because with things like falls, falls become patterns. So, for example, if your loved one starts to fall, maybe the answer might be, okay, first, how often are you falling? If you ask, like, for example, my father-in-law, when he was still living on his own, how many times have you fallen? He would be like, I haven't fallen.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
Fantastic. He was a fantastic guy, but because of his short-term memory loss, it was
Yeah.
like, no, everything's great. He had a great attitude. So it's like, help my wife over here. No, I'm great. Everything is fantastic.
I think the watch is beautiful.
Thank you.
That's number one, because you can't give it to your loved one if You wouldn't wear it yourself.
Yeah, it's clunky. Yeah, no, it's tough, because the size and everything, it's is a challenge. But yeah, we tried to make it so people would want to wear it. Yeah. Now
Yeah,
the other thing is kind of important for that is that wanting them to wear it is really one of those keys, right? Because it's kind of like you and I being stuck with our smartphone, right? It used to be just the phone, and then it became like my calendar and all these. Now it's like,
everything.
I don't care where my keys are. I can start my car with my phone. I could pay with my phone. All this stuff, right? So with weather information and other information that we could bring as far as little applets into this device, because it's a complete Android operating system on your wrist. Those are the kinds of things that I think allow us to get more stickiness too. So we also incorporate some voice stuff to it as well. So the watch, instead of looking at the small user interface, which a lot of people that don't have great vision would be able to use, you have a touch screen and you've got voice that come up and say, hey, press display anywhere on display for a wellness check or some other kind of a user scenario. Those things are, they're getting more and more stickiness, as far as our users go. With the geofencing, we can also tag those locations. So, for example, supermarket, mom's left the home, so I could get a notification on my interface, on my smartphone interface. I don't have to do anything. I could push their button, I could talk to her right away, but and then she's at the supermarket. So she's arrived at the supermarket. Then I get another notification. Okay, left the supermarket. Then she's, going to she has, a dog and two cats. And she goes to the vet up there quite often. Things like that. So those patterns, when I look at those patterns, I can see, kind of in black and white if there's any, major change there. And I call her and say, hey, Mom, what's going on? You were last Thursday and Friday, you seem to stay home all day, and that's unusual for you. So she might say, yeah, well, I've got a cold or this or that, that kind of stuff. So, just having those kinds of discussions, especially with things like urinary tract infections, which are repetitive with geriatrics. This is one of the challenges we have with my father-in-law. My mother-in-law and my mom also has this, sometimes those challenges about chronic, unfortunately. But understanding there's something I can still do to encourage her to go see, the ER, the local ER, to be able to get medication to get over that UTI if you catch it early enough. It goes back to that quality of life, not only for the person, but also for that caregiver that's hanging around in the ER or in the hospital, because a lot of these infections, when they get really bad, they cause delirium.
So now that I want it, now I want to make sure my loved ones have it. How do I get it?
So you can go to theoracare, .com is our website that has all the information about the product. It also has a buy now type button, kind of a thing. There are also our resellers around the U.S. as well for our products, and some of those are listed on our website. When
Yeah.
I got started on this, a couple of very senior research people in especially the Alzheimer's space had talked to me and said, "Look, Steve, it's really, it's the caregiver. You gotta take care of the caregiver." And I'm
Yeah.
like, at first it was like, okay, I get it. Then I became a caregiver. Now I really get it.
You
And
live it.
now, we've got over 10,000 of these devices out in North America, and it's like, you get the stories. It's just unbelievable. I mean, as far as the challenges, but also the victories too. It's okay. I used to, I didn't have this product. I just had all the stress of my life. Now that stress is not completely gone, of course, but it's more controlled, I think.
Well, what's nice is what you're doing is increasing the baseline of the tools we use. The tools
Yep.
we use now, uh,
Yep.
the people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, their heads would explode. And the
Yes.
tools we'll use in 10 or 20 years, we'll look at it and go, oh, I saw where that started. But look out how ubiquitous it is, and how I always call it transparent bubble of care. It's putting this bubble of care around my loved one that it takes the stress off of me, and I know
Right.
they're safer. So thank you for all you do. We appreciate it. And
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
yeah, looking forward to more neat stuff coming from you.
Yeah, well, we're working on this every day to get better and better.
Thanks, Steve.